Manufacturers are facing extraordinary challenges today. With labor shortages, supply chain disruptions, and a changing workforce, complex industrial technology doesn't cut it on the front line. What's needed is a new way of working that will not only meet throughput goals, but change the shop floor culture to one of winning, where every worker feels they play a part in achieving the company's goals for success. What's needed is Red Zone, the connected workforce solution.
Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new episode of the Today in Manufacturing podcast. With me this week are Jeff Ranke and Anna Wells. We're the editors of Manufacturing.net and Industrial Equipment News, and we each have more than 20 years of experience covering the manufacturing industry. Every week, we take the 5 most popular stories on our websites and discuss the implications they have on the industry going forward. Before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also help us out a lot by giving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. Finally, to email the podcast, you can reach any of us at Jeff, Anna, or David at IN.com with email the podcast in the subject line. We're also live every Thursday, so you can subscribe to us on YouTube at IN Magazine so you can get a notification whenever we go live, and subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first. Jeff, how are you doing this week?
I am good. Haven't you noticed, though, it's more like you'll get a notification whenever YouTube kind of feels like getting around to it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like I typically get a notification right around when the thing I wanted to see is over. And we're talking about like 90-minute podcasts, or I get the notification when something I want to see has been scheduled. So it's like to pre-save or whatever, just like, hey, this new music video by this band you want to see is going to debut in 3 days. And we will send you the notification after it has debuted.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's, I mean, they're...
so in theory...
Yeah.
You'll get that notification.
But, I mean, best practices. Still subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and maybe submit a comment to YouTube. Anna, how you doing this week?
Doing fine.
Very good. All right, let's jump into it after a word from our sponsor, our friends at Red Zone. This week's episode is brought to you by Red Zone. Watching employees walk away shortly after spending ample resources training them is incredibly frustrating. And while harder to spot, unengaged or unproductive employees also negatively impact the return on labor investment. A new webinar from Red Zone features experts who discuss the roots of high turnover in manufacturing, how successful leaders support growth for employees, and methods for improving operational visibility. So, watch this webinar, How Coil Specialists Tackled Employee Reliability by, quote, leading well. Watch it right now. There's a link in the body copy and in the live chat. Our first story this week. Michigan loses major semiconductor manufacturing opportunity. SanDisk had big plans for Michigan. The company was going to build a 1,300-acre campus near Flint and create some 9,400 jobs and 5,000 construction jobs in the process. Unfortunately, those plans fell through, and Governor Gretchen Whitmer says, quote, massive economic uncertainty is to blame. In a statement, Whitmer said, quote, their board came to the decision amid national economic turmoil, which is at risk of worsening amid threats of even higher tariffs. SanDisk declined to comment, but the hot-button issue became a talking point for nearly 15 minutes in the 24-hour news cycle. SanDisk, which makes flash drives and memory disks, or memory cards, was hoping to break ground this year, and Michigan offered $1.925 billion in cash grants, $250 million in workforce development funding, and almost $4 billion in tax breaks. According to Whitmer, SanDisk isn't building a semiconductor factory in Michigan or anywhere else in the United States. Jeff, why do you think SanDisk pulled the plug?
Well, I think the uncertainty element here was true, but I think maybe overplayed or a little bit politicized. Mm-hmm. I think you and I were looking maybe at the same article or articles here. When you look at that incentive package actually being over $6 billion,
crazy.
That is a huge chunk. And the uncertainty, was really within the state of Michigan. There were a lot of individuals, both sides of the aisle, who were not sold on this level of investment. They obviously want the factory, I think. I don't think that was the issue, but just putting out that much money to get it and keep it there.
Yeah.
So the uncertainty, fair, maybe a little mischaracterized. And I think it is interesting now whenever there is any of these types of situations, politicians, again, either side, find a way to work in that comment or that dig on tariffs and either the positive or negative impact they're having or things that were done in the past that prevented certain things from happening because of different economic or stimulus packages that taxpayers are paying for, and we can't afford to continue doing this.
Yeah.
So in this instance, I think there's also, just when you look at the area that SanDisk operates in, their environment right now, a lot of competition, a lot going on there as well. So I think them pumping the brakes a little bit, maybe more of a market factor, not necessarily related to tariffs and other higher level economic uncertainty, but more at the consumer level. Consumers maybe saying they're seeing a lot of things going on. We talked about it last week as well, consumers being unsure, pulling back a little bit on spending. You could see that playing a role too if somebody wants to wait before they start rolling out tens of billions of dollars for a new facility and a new geography.
Well, and I mean, it sounds like a lot of money, right? Well, I mean, that doesn't sound, it is like $6.24 billion in incentives. That's a lot of money. But if it's a $63 billion project, it makes sense, but you just want to make sure those protections are in place. So that way, you know, it's not just like Foxconn to the east.
Well, and SanDisk too. You can appreciate their if they're going to shell out $60 billion, they want to make sure people want them there.
Yeah.
So
no, that was I actually, I don't know, Anna, if you pulled this quote out, but so State Representative Ann Boleyn said, quote, "Imagine if somebody is investing $6 billion and the company doesn't think it's a good return on their investment with that. That's probably, or there's a problem with the project." Hard to argue with that. Anna, what were your thoughts on SanDisk kind of walking away, especially with, you know, $7 billion in incentives on the table?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, there's a lot here. If you do look at the cash that Michigan was about to lay out and add to that this contention that SanDisk is actually not going to build anywhere else in the U.S., that does kind of suggest that maybe there were larger problems that were not Michigan related.
True. Yeah.
You know, there was something about this deal that they felt was inhospitable. And I think specifically concerns over the CHIPS and Science Act and the future of that may have played a role here. I think that's fair to consider. I wish we had a statement from SanDisk clarifying this a little bit, because we really only have, you know, the governor's word. You know, your points around the controversy of the incentives, I agree. It is hard to know. I mean, you mentioned Foxconn. Like, if you look at, you know, fast forward a couple of years, that was very controversial at the time. As soon as the governorship changed over, that deal was reevaluated.
Yeah.
Maybe SanDisk, who, you know, Whitmer is term limited. She's not going to be around in 2 years.
Yeah.
Are they concerned that that deal gets renegotiated? I don't know. Who knows?
Well, and it makes sense that, I mean, it was like a loud no comment from SanDisk, because this was so politicized right out of the gate that SanDisk was just like, looked at the landscape and they're like, it's a respectful pass. It's just a no thank you. And I thought that with some of the statements from the lawmakers, they seem to be kind of jokingly taking the same like anti-job stance. You know, that Reed sometimes joke that you're like, you're not, but you know, just because like, so Bolin said, you know, hey, we have a declining population. We have an aging population. We still have infrastructure that's not in the best condition. There are plenty of things for us to be investing general fund dollars in.
Man,
and so,
put her in the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah. Jeez. Just, you know, just like, whoa, enough jobs already. Okay. Yeah. We got other problems here.
We are fine.
Yeah. Why would you want to come here anyway?
Yeah. Oh,
what are you thinking?
I mean, our pets' heads are falling off. Just, it was just like, whoa. I mean, come on now. We got other things to do.
I mean, not to play devil's advocate, but I mean, if you look at like, you know, the state's coffers, you know, there is a lot you can do with tax revenue.
Oh yeah.
Versus like kind of head down, just like pumping project after project, especially if you do have a workforce issue. You know, I think people need to start to acknowledge that is a factor.
And I think it's a particularly hot button issue in this area. You know, being right next to Flint. I mean, it's hard to give a brand new company $6+ billion in incentives when, they weren't willing to invest in like clean water, so it's clearly an area that could use the money in other ways. All right. Our next most popular story this week, Stellantis pulls plug on hydrogen vehicles. Stellantis is having a tough year, and this week it warned of a $2.7 billion loss just in the first half of this year. The company has been hit hard by tariff costs and production losses, and it's making some changes. For example, Stellantis is suspending its hydrogen development program and discontinuing the hydrogen-powered commercial vans scheduled to move into production this year. Jean-Philippe Imparato, Stellantis COO for Enlarged Europe, said hydrogen had, quote, no prospects of midterm economic sustainability, and called the entire market niche. The biggest problem is infrastructure. According to Fast Tech, there were just 54 public hydrogen stations in the United States in 2024, only 20 privately owned hydrogen refueling stations for fleets. Some automakers are holding out. Toyota is still all in on hydrogen for now, but Stellantis is pulling out of the market. Just hard pass for them. Anna, any surprise that Stellantis is bailing on hydrogen, or on the sort of harsh critique by Jean-Philippe on the no prospects of midterm economic sustainability?
I don't know. I wasn't really surprised to see this, nor was I surprised at the timing of it. There's only, I don't know. I guess I've been kind of bearish on hydrogen for a while.
Yeah.
But that's because there's just so much work to do in terms of like getting it up to the point where it's both practical and environmentally friendly and cost effective. There's just so many barriers. And you can say that there's a niche here for maybe fleet customers. I know that is, people have kind of, contended that. But that doesn't really change the cost calculation in terms of the amount of R&D that has to go into it yet. And also kind of concentrates those costs to scale on business customers. Because there really is no play for like the average consumer. There's no refueling infrastructure anywhere.
Yeah.
So I just think right now, when we look at the market for automotive, I don't know that they have the appetite for getting embedded in a technology like hydrogen as it plays out when the risk reward on EVs turned out to be a little bit lopsided for them, or in terms of what their expectations were. And so if they're getting a little bit spooked by that, then it's not really a surprise. We saw GM pull out of autonomous driving technology completely. I think because, again, it was sort of a diversionary technology for them. It wasn't their core business, and they had to refocus. I mean, the market required that.
Yeah.
Personally, I think the real niche here is just this customer base that needs to have like all these options in terms of clean tech. I just don't think that audience exists. You know what I mean? I think you have a lot of people that don't even care, so it's like, I don't think you need to give like the green segment 5 different options for a powertrain. I just, you put a lot of money into electrics. Just still kind of seeing that pay off. And so I don't know. It just, and then you have Stellantis specifically, who is like doing this as one of the last to market on EVs, right?
Yeah.
They put a ton of money into it. Right now, they have a lot to prove, I think, in a product category that people are, even though it's not as great as everyone expected, people are spending money there.
Yeah.
And they're spending a lot of money in Europe, and Stellantis has a big footprint there. I think they should just focus on that.
Yeah.
And quit laying out cash for technology that is just like, again, in the near term, midterm, not going to be profitable for them at all.
No, was my biggest takeaway is like, of the fish that Stellantis needs to fry, like the automaker just doesn't have the time and has seemingly fewer and fewer resources to dabble in some of this technology. And Jeff, Anna kind of mentioned that we understand sort of the fleet application for hydrogen, right? But doesn't hydrogen still seems to me like startup pilot project, like let the startups figure out the business model, and then Stellantis, like always, or anyone, just come in and gobble it up. Let somebody else put that in,
Well, yes, potentially in some applications. I just think, and I would agree with Anna, when it comes to like the consumer driving public, even the fleets, it's just no. Yeah. At this point. They've just said no thanks. I mean, the way that sales have just fallen off a cliff, when you look at hydrogen vehicles, I mean, Toyota was basically trying to give away They were going to
lose money on the Mirai.
Yeah. I mean, and then when you look at fleets, them especially, where they were actually looking at investing in long-haul trailers and things like that, or long-haul semis and stuff that were running on hydrogen, it's just not going to happen. The other thing I would just like to say is, based on Jean-Philippe Imperato and Representative Boland from the last one, I can no longer be the curmudgeon of this podcast. Okay? Yeah. They have taken the reign there and being way more negative about things that they're much more closely attached to than me.
Guest curmudgeons.
Yeah, this is definitely strong, like, disappointed dad vibes. And just like, the hydrogen has no prospects. Yeah. It's going to live with us in our garage forever.
Get a job.
That's right.
I mean, it's just kind of interesting. Like, we've been on a little bit of a roller coaster with hydrogen, too. I mean, I kind of thought it was done until about 18 months ago. There was all this renewed enthusiasm for it. What I think may come out of this, with a lot of the resources that have been thrown at it by some of the bigger automakers, is maybe other applications. I mean, there's still a lot of buses, and there's actually been an increase in sale on hydrogen-powered buses. Mm-hmm. Same with forklifts. I'm not saying these are going to fill the void completely in terms from a sustainability perspective, or what people maybe been looking for bigger goals from hydrogen. Yeah. But there are applications here that maybe we can expand upon and continue to learn how to use this fuel source better, produce it more cleanly, all of those things. So it's not like it's a dead technology, but I think the growth is probably not in automotive. Yeah. I think it's in other areas. We've seen these kind of interesting sort of campuses pop up too, where they've been trying to recycle hydrogen because it's a waste product and other things that they make there. I think that's awesome. Continue to look into those things, but also with a reality that it's not going to be powering vehicles going down the highway anytime soon. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like the ceiling is just dropping on it, on the technology. Yeah. Greg Miller says, rumor has it that they're developing rubber band technology now. All you have to do is push it back 100 yards, and you will then have a range of over 150 feet. I mean, sound idea. I think
super fast.
Greg's getting in on the ground floor.
Hot Wheels has proven this to be accurate.
That's right. With their terrible quality, poor product selection, and overall bad management, Stellantis just needs to be put out of their misery.
Ooh, hot take.
Spit and fire. Jeez. And Alex says, if only there were a way to get hydrogen from something that was overabundant and considered a waste product, like aluminum cans, then people should be able to have their own little refueling stations at home with safety precautions, obviously. I guess maybe a little more optimistic than Greg.
Aluminum can.
Yeah.
Fueling station?
Fueling stations, yeah. I do like the idea of the rubber band car, though. I'm at least there to see the races. All right, our next most popular story. Greg, take a nap. No. One of the largest EV battery plants in North America has officially opened. The factory is the size of more than 225 football fields. Panasonic Energy last week officially opened its new cylindrical lithium-ion battery factory for electric vehicles. The batteries are cylindrical, not the factory. Located in DeSoto, just outside Kansas City, the factory is one of the largest automotive battery plants in North America. The company has already begun mass production of 2170 cells, which kind of look like giant AA batteries, and they're making them in Kansas. The 300-acre site will significantly boost Panasonic Energy's U.S.-based production capacity. The new plant will also help meet the demand coming from the automotive industry. The factory is expected to be 20% more productive than the company's factory in Nevada, and soon Panasonic Energy hopes to introduce products using advanced materials that will increase cell capacity by 5%. This factory is going to create 4,000 direct jobs, some 8,000 jobs in total, including those in supplier and related industries. Jeff, why is it always football fields? Did you know this factory is also the size of 60 cricket pitches?
What's that?
And 250 Culver's restaurants?
Depends on the Culvers.
And 2.75 Vatican cities?
Never been.
Well, this is where you learn.
I've been to many a football field.
Yeah?
So I can better equate that to all of those references.
I mean, people know what a cricket pitch is.
Nope.
No.
Nah, I don't think they do.
No.
Culver's, though, more and more people.
Depends.
Yeah.
250 is
No,
hard to visualize.
Yeah, I understand that. I was just trying to say, like, I get it. You know, football, everyone knows what that is. But it's okay. Let's have a little bit of fun with it. Like, it's the size of 9,000 hippopotami.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's much clearer.
Yes.
Thank you, David.
Yes. I mean, I really like to illustrate
You make
for
it real
people.
for everyone.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So when it comes to this particular factory, what are your thoughts on something like this type of EV technology, renewable, and working out in Kansas?
Pretty incredible. You know, is this the one I want to clarify? Is this the factory where I think it was the Oklahoma governor was actually trying to compete for this, but he couldn't tell anybody what it was? He was just trying to get support for like this anonymous project. I think it was this one, actually. He was trying to compete.
Because it was like they weren't allowed to talk about it, or because he thought it was not
I think
palatable?
they just weren't, like, they were trying to basically get in the game, I think, but before he, anyway, that's where it's kind of stuck out.
Okay.
I think it is interesting to see that this is coming to fruition. We've covered this one right from the start, so it's cool to see this happen, because this is one of those plans where, like, well, let's see what happens when we get down the road with it a little bit. It's great to have the funding, put everything in place. Now they're actually ramping up. Is it 4,000 jobs?
4,000 direct and
2
8,000 indirect.
Yeah. Yep.
So pretty incredible. And I think it is interesting when you look at the location of it here, when you look at it being in Kansas. Kansas is a state that has gone, from a presidential perspective, has gone for the Republicans since like 1968. Okay. Over 50 years. That's like 16 presidential elections, whatever it is.
Yeah.
They do have a Democratic governor. But now if you're looking at all of this money coming in, $500 million in labor wages, $500 million in sort of associated economic activity, 4,000 jobs, all tied to electric vehicles and batteries. You're also looking at an administration that won this state that's looking to take about $170 million out of the budget that was going towards things like roadside charging stations, things like other things that were really set aside for electric vehicle support, if you will. So once this gets going, and it looks like they're not going to looking to slow down. They're going to look to put resources into this facility to make it more and more efficient and a bigger part of sort of their industrial footprint here in the U.S. How is that going to change? Is that going to have an impact politically, potentially, on how this state and others like them approach politics?
Yeah.
You know, so I think it'll be interesting from a longer term perspective to see how this has a also social impact on some of these areas that are going to benefit from these types of industries that need bigger footprints. They just need more physical space to get the work done. And they're going to find it in a lot of these areas that are brown sites that have traditionally been Republican.
Yeah.
But that counters a lot of, again, the sort of socio-political elements in place. So it's going to be interesting to see long-term how this plays out. It's easy to see the short-term gains.
Yeah.
What's going to happen longer term?
It would, I do like, I think that's a really interesting point.
Yeah, I
just
hadn't
to
thought
see
of that really.
How, it could change a few minds. What do you think? And this was the project that Oklahoma's governor was fighting for.
All
yeah.
right. Okay.
What do you think about, when they come out and say the factory is expected to be 20% more productive than their site in Nevada? Does that sound like, oh, well, we're going to learn here and then we're going to make Nevada more efficient? Or does that maybe sound like a warning sign to that Nevada factory? Like, hey, we gotta do better.
I mean, I would guess that's just sort of a continuous improvement type of strategy, that it doesn't just apply to one place. You're going to take whatever you learn there and apply it everywhere.
Yeah, maybe more highly automated or
Yeah.
Okay, I was just like, that was the one part that stuck out to me, Anna, where it was just like, and it's going to be real better, like a lot better than this other plant that we have. It's just like, wow, just kind of throwing shade at your other factory.
Yeah, they're like, I hope you're listening, Nevada.
Because let's fix it up here.
Kansas got all A's on their report card.
One thing real quick. I think I said million.
Okay.
If the cuts go through with the administration, what they want to do for EV funding, it's billion.
Ooh.
It's $170 billion, so it's going to take out of the budget. So, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Anna, this project's very promising. They've already invested $4 billion. They already have 1,000 people on staff. What do you think? Is this some of the goals that the company has for this site? Are they a little too ambitious, or do you see them coming to fruition?
I think I'm not alone in having a few concerns about their ambitious jobs pledge. And that's for a few reasons. So we've covered this a bit, I think, in recent months on the podcast about the challenges that battery makers have faced in these big projects in the U.S. They've been stymied by high construction costs, labor force shortages, supply chain delays, and now, of course, the sluggish electric vehicle market. That's been enough to knock off some of these projects that are kind of similar to what Panasonic is doing from even taking place at all. And then now you have to add to that uncertainties over auto tariffs, which even the automakers are a little bit wobbly about, still trying to figure out what that's going to mean for them.
I think that is a very generous way of describing
a little bit of an understatement.
How automakers feel about it.
Right. You have federal legislation that is sort of disincentivizing EV ownership through adding fees, reducing these tax breaks, cutting funding for infrastructure, as you had mentioned as well, Jeff. And then you have Tesla's decline, which is another big piece of it. It's not a great place to start if your entire business model for this factory is servicing the EV market. So that first. Secondly, the job projections. I think they're interesting because the ones that Panasonic highlights, these like 4,000 to 8,000, these are basically the same as they projected in 2023 when they announced this deal. They have not changed that projection at all. I think we know a lot has happened in the last couple years in this market. But you've got 1,000 now. Right now, there's like fewer than 100 jobs posted for this plant that I could find anyway. And experts in the area are starting to be a little bit, I think, alarmed, low-key alarmed.
Just, raising tiny flags. Like, hey.
Right, that Panasonic could actually pump the brakes on hiring. And one of the reasons they are concerned is that Panasonic could still collect hundreds of millions of dollars from Kansas, even if they don't hit their jobs goal. So if you look at what the contract Panasonic signed included, there's no job or pay requirements in that deal. So
that's a bummer. That's normally a really important one.
It is a big one, and you're seeing that happen more and more as states try to insulate themselves from potential issues down the road where, say, the bottom falls out of a market and you're left holding the bag. So DeSoto, the local area, they did include some hiring quotas, but they are much lower than the number of jobs that were originally touted in this deal. So even DeSoto, they have some protections in there, but they're not really like complete for them. So here you have Panasonic dealing with all of these market variables that are very, very challenging and applying a ton of pressure to them. They're not exactly under the gun to hire in earnest. And don't get me wrong, like I don't want to see them overhire and then lay off that cycle. Nobody likes to see that cycle, right? But I think you have to consider that this plant, even though it's exciting, even though Panasonic is a corporate giant and Kansas is happy to have this plant, that maybe it's on shaky ground a little bit before it even gets off the ground here. So it is probably one to watch.
Well, and maybe that's part of the deal, right? Maybe they're like, hey, optimistically 4,000 jobs, right? But let's just say if we're going to set a threshold, let's maybe set it at 1,000. Maybe there was some communication with DeSoto there. So that way they could put those protections in place and they would be a little bit more realistic. I don't know. I was kind of curious about, because you're right, like in terms of being compared to the Nevada plant, it really is just how they're laying out this plant and how it's going to be so much more automated to be that much more efficient. Some of the things that I thought that stood out to me. So this facility is going to make 66 of these lithium-ion batteries per second.
Wow.
It's broken into 2 wings with 4 battery lines on each wing. And at the end of both wings, infrastructure is designed for shipping, packing, and subassembly vendor spaces for their partners. So very streamlined factories. They also plan that this will generate $2.5 billion in new economic activity. And the plant is the largest in terms of an economic development project in the entire state's history. So there are a lot of things at stake. And Jeff, until you brought up the Oklahoma part, this quote that I pulled out, didn't make as much sense to me, but it makes a little bit more sense now because so Lieutenant Governor and Secretary of Commerce David Tolan like came out with like this quote that was like a weird mix of like vigilante justice and Superman. And I was just like, I mean, we've talked about it before, but sometimes when these economic development agencies or states put out these press releases, right? It's just like fact, 47 quotes from every possible stakeholder with any sort of political stake in the game. This is what Mr. Tolan said. Quote, Kansas leaders did the equivalent of kicking down doors and leaping over tall buildings to win this $4 billion investment from Panasonic. Quite the feat. Kicking down doors, leaping over buildings. They really had a lot going on. This is a once-in-a-generation move that will power our economy, support thousands of Kansas families, and spark opportunity for decades to come. It's bold, it's historic, and all Kansans can feel pride today in seeing that our state can do big things again and that our best days are ahead of us. I wonder if this Tolan guy has like larger political aspirations at all.
It's pretty dramatic.
The hyperbole. I get it. Like when you're in a quote dump, you got to just be like, what's going to make us stand out? Kicking down doors, leaping over buildings.
Taking names.
That's, yeah.
Isn't Superman from Kansas? So
Small
did
town.
they use this every time anything happens?
Yeah,
like positive every time.
Faster than a locomotive.
Right? It was,
Make sure you put,
bullet.
yeah. Make sure you put some Superman language in the press release, please.
That's right. Like, hey, we got to, Superman's coming out. We really got to tie this one together. Maybe, I don't know. But also the kicking down doors, though, that one I was just like, well, that is a little thuggish. But whatever, however you got it done. It was a good deal and good for Kansas. But man, just keep those quotes coming. They continue to surprise me. All right, our next most popular story. Walt Disney robot made with same technology he helped pioneer 60 years ago. Disneyland is celebrating its 70th anniversary. Last week, the happiest place on earth unveiled a new attraction, Walt Disney, A Magical Life. At the Main Street Opera House, Disney's Imagineers installed an animatronic version of Walt Disney. Imagineers spent more than 7 years on the project. Walt, dressed in a suit, shoes, not just a shoe, and also wearing a tie, tells the story of his life through historical recordings. The animatronic figure is the most advanced model ever created at Disney. Imagineers studied Walt's mannerisms and movements, muscle structure, nuances, and even how his mouth fell while speaking. Design and development teams went as far as creating realistic skin and a, quote, twinkle in his eyes. Underneath the hood is an electrically powered body. Older models were primarily hydraulic or pneumatic. And Walt actually helped pioneer this audio animatronic medium 60 years ago with a team that created a figure of Abraham Lincoln. The first audio animatronic version of Lincoln debuted at the New York World's Fair in 1964, and it was so lifelike that at the time National Geographic called it, quote, alarming. Anna, this robot is very realistic, down to that twinkle in their eye, and I was surprised that they didn't give a little bit more information about what that meant.
Mm-hmm.
And I was curious, though, like, did you see the video of this presentation, and did you find any part of the show alarming?
Not alarming, although animatronics do creep me out a little bit. Although when they mentioned the hydraulics, I mean, you can, like, in your mind see that, right?
Oh, yeah, the, like
yeah. Like a little bit of fluid leaking onto like fake fur at Chuck E. Cheese or whatever.
Yes. It was definitely, it made for, it was much more fluid motion, much more human-like, I guess.
Yeah. So for me, what I took away from this is it just made me think about how I think because we're so close to the industry, we kind of take for granted some of the developments that are taking place in automation and robotics. I don't know that the impact of those advancements is necessarily like trickling down to the general public. So I don't know. I thought it was interesting to see how this was in such a public place for like kind of like the everyman setting.
Yeah.
For people to get to see some of these developments. And when they talked about that lifelike skin and the twinkle in Walt's eye, It just was a good example of like how robots aren't. It's not like Wall-E,
Yeah.
you know. And I think the other issue too is that it seems to me lately that people are developing more and more kind of a deep skepticism of what they see online and the rise of AI and deep fakes and things like that. Like people are turned off generally by things that are artificially recreating human appearance.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yes.
Um,
Definitely.
yeah. I mean, because I feel that,
Yeah.
right?
It's creepy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so we talk about this idea of humanoid bots in the future and what role they can play in the workplace, and will actual humans trust, to work side by side with a humanoid bot. So maybe start building that trust at the happiest place on earth and show people what the technology is capable of. And maybe it's less likely to be viewed as threatening and more likely to, spark like a different narrative there.
I agree, and I do think that this does have the potential to inspire children and actually, anyone that really sees the presentation. Do you think? I mean, is there a place that it's in all of Disneyland that is probably more difficult to get your kids to visit than this old opera house?
For sure. And I feel like I would have a harder time explaining to them, like, no, this guy is actually dead.
Yeah, this guy's actually dead, but he created all this. He is Walt Disney. No, but this is Walt Disney.
He's not real.
Walt Disneyland. No. He's the man.
He's not only not real, but he's also dead.
Yes, he's also dead. And we've had some revisionist history about the story, but don't worry about it.
Yep.
No, but that was my biggest thing. Is it's just like, okay, there are all these amazing attractions at Disneyland, and I gotta get my kids to take a detour on Main Street to go see Lincoln and Disney, and they're just gonna be like, no,
yeah,
I want to go see almost everything else at this place.
Yeah.
First, and then maybe you can drag my tired, withered carcass through this, and I might pay attention if there's food involved.
Only if you carry me.
However, Jeff, if you do get kids to go and see this, I do think that this is the type of attraction where once you do tell the kids, like, hey, that not only is that not a human, but I think that kids can see this and say to themselves, I want to do that.
Potentially. I think the only thing they got to fix there to make it more realistic is the audio.
Yeah.
It just doesn't
it sounds
quite
like an old recording.
Sync up type of thing. But anyway, it is pretty amazing. Got me thinking about the Imagineers.
Oh, yeah.
What kind of budget do you think these guys are working with on an annual basis?
Unlimited.
Mm-hmm.
It is a number. There's a real number.
Their goal is to make dreams come true. That is the greatest. What are you doing? I make dreams come true. Well, what's your budget?
What does it cost to make dreams come true?
Yeah.
So I was actually surprised. And when you think about it in real world numbers, this is a huge number, but I actually thought it was going to be more for some reason. $51.5 million was the Imagineering budget for 2024.
That's a lot of dreams.
Yeah. So, and this was when they're going through, they're doing a lot of things in the park to revamp, update, new technology, all that, but still.
Yeah, new attractions.
Man. And I think that number hit me harder just because we've been seeing so much in the news cycle lately about the upcoming budget. Mm-hmm. And we've experienced a lot of this. We talked about some of those MEPS programs that had temporary funding holds and stuff. Last budget put forward by the president is going to cut NSF funding, or excuse me, the
National Science Foundation.
National Science Foundation, a lot of the different proposals that they get and different grants that they award by about half. We're also seeing STEM funding cut by about 75%. Now, look, I know there's some political elements attached to this. People have different thoughts because they think there's too many DEI elements incorporated into some of these STEM programs. We need to figure that out if that's what we need to do, because to lose this much funding for this type of educational opportunities, we're not going to have Imagineers going forward. There's not going to be any to fill in the gap to whatever the next generation of this animatronic robot is.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see these two things sort of play off. We've got an organization, an independent organization, who's funneling all of this money into things like this, but our government's not.
Yeah.
And that's concerning.
Well, and honestly, the pathway to being an Imagineer has never been easier, right? Because a kid can go and see this, be inspired, want to make their own robot, and seriously either buy or participate in a Lego store, Mindstorms, or other FIRST program at either in their school or community.
Well, that's the thing. We've seen the benefits. I mean, Eric and I had the chance at the Rockwell event to talk to these kids on these robotics teams. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. I mean, this is just like any other sports team that we were on in high school in terms of all of those other lessons. But then on top of it, they're getting real stuff they can use to get a job someday, and they're loving it.
Yeah.
So to see some of those things potentially going away for these reasons, from a political reason, is very alarming. We should all be concerned about this.
Well, and what is the one thing in common other than age with almost everyone that Nolan Beilstein interviews for the Gen Z podcast, how they got interested in manufacturing? It is STEM, it is Lego Mindstorms, and I think that could do incredible damage to an already strained talent pool if we don't figure that out.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, like I don't want to get into the weeds on it, but yeah, there are way too many things tied around these grants and like how the money can be used. Like, all right, our most popular story this week: 5 million pools linked to child drownings recalled. The U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission and multiple vendors have recalled nearly 5 million swimming pools that could be linked to 9 child drownings. The 48-inch and taller above-ground pools were made in China and have been on the market since 2002, pretty much sold everywhere. The hazard involves a compression strap that surrounds the pool and runs over its vertical support legs. This creates footholds that allow children access to the pool. The CPSC believes that 9 children aged 22 months to 3 years have drowned between 2007 and 2022 after using the compression straps to get into the pool. The agency added that it knew of 3 other incidents in 2011 and 2012 where children used the strap to climb into a pool. Owners are going to get a free repair kit, which features a rope that attaches the support poles at the ground level, so it can't be used as a foothold to get up and over. Owners, until they get this kit, should drain the pool until, and then once it arrives, they should also make sure that children can't access the pool unattended. Anna, so after you looked at the design, were you surprised that these pools weren't recalled sooner or even made it to the market in the first place? Just because I think of all the child safety stuff, you know, all the pictures of the kid falling into the 5-gallon bucket on pretty much anything that can hold a liquid and fit a kid's head.
Yeah.
To me, I was surprised when I looked at this design.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the design component here makes an item that feels inaccessible to small kids actually be accessible to them. And I know that, you know, we had some commenters on our site who were quick to blame the parents in this scenario. And of course, I think parents are charged with keeping their kids safe, but they probably didn't realize that this strap was basically the equivalent of having a ladder on the outside of the pool.
Well, and that a child can be in danger in half a second.
Well, that's the thing. Anyone who's had a toddler and says that they've 100% had eyeballs on that kid, you know, at all times, they've never been distracted for a second or gone to the bathroom or whatever, they're lying to you. That's not, I mean, it's not a fair criticism, I think, of these parents, because with circumstances like this where you cannot see through the side, I mean, it would be very easy for this to happen, but maybe not something that you could predict necessarily. So I think we cut those parents some slack and focus on the product. You know, if you look at recalls, it's not like out of the ordinary necessarily for a product to be recalled. Even if it is being used incorrectly, if it becomes unsafe for being used incorrectly. I mean, we've covered this before, right? Kids who can access batteries and toys and then they ingest them, or
swallow magnets. Kids
who swallow magnets or those Orbi beads. They're not supposed to do that, obviously, but if you find that is recurring or that is happening, then we got to figure out a different strategy here, because, you know, kids don't know how to make that choice. They're kids, right?
We got to stop blaming parents and kids and understand that this is a design flaw, that we could also, you know, build a better mousetrap.
I agree. And I think products that are designed for kids need to be held to a higher standard, because if it's easy for a kid to die when using your product in an unintended way, then that needs to be recalled, in my opinion. That needs to be changed. Unfortunately, like a really, really sad series of events that led to this. I do agree that it was a very, very long time that this product was on the market.
Yeah.
And you do wonder if, because they had so many retailers, or, sometimes with products like these, they're like branded in multiple ways.
Yeah, there's not one manufacturer and one brand.
Yeah.
It's like available in multiple types of packaging and footprints and
right. And then it just muddies the water in terms of like developing that that consistent storyline of like, whoa, like this is all one thing that's causing this huge problem.
Yeah.
You would think that we would have a better strategy for that.
Yeah, when it's one product and you have 9 cases or whatever, it's really easy to see that trend developing. Where if it's, 20 different products from 100 different retailers, it just looks like one-offs, right? And it takes time, unfortunately, like 23 years for people to understand that a pattern has evolved. But I agree with you. Like, I do think that these types of products, anything that's related to children, should be held to a higher standard. But Jeff, do you think it is? I think that right now, given the state of e-commerce, like products for kids have never been held to a lower standard, just because, they're coming from different manufacturers all over the globe. Everything is, supposed to meet these standards, but they don't. I was just talking about this last week, right? Ever since about how it's important to go to the CPSC website regularly. Ever since I said that for last week's final thought, retractable safety gates for kids have been recalled. Electric scooters and bikes have been recalled. Electric fly swatters, mini fridges, LED gloves for kids have all been recalled, and all for things that should never have made it onto the market.
Yeah, there's a couple different things going on here. There's so many outlets now for selling products. I think that makes it easier for some of this stuff to get through. And I think that might be sort of the secret sauce here. Mm-hmm. If they published anything here, and I understand why they don't, and it's not really their responsibility to, but if they said 80% of these products were purchased at Walmart, all of a sudden Walmart's in the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have to be. Okay, because I think they do need to start playing a role here. Or these things are bought on Amazon or wherever the case may be. Getting the retailers more involved, like when we were talking about a lot of things that were going on with eye drops and not knowing how to regulate that. Okay, you can't get the manufacturers to comply, or it's too difficult to understand who am I actually talking to or where am I going here because it's a foreign supplier or a foreign manufacturer. Get the retailer involved so that they have to do a little bit of their homework to understand who is actually on their shelves or who is on their website that they're providing access to for the public. I think if there was more involvement there and a more conscious effort to get the sellers involved, we could see a lot of these things happen more frequently. That's the big thing that blew me away when looking at this. Even if you take away the stuff from 2007, by 2011 and 2012, they knew.
Yes.
CPSC, there was no doubt. There was total clarity in terms of what was happening here. The other thing is, when I saw what the kids were doing and how they were using this, I feel like if there was real world testing, they would have seen that within an hour.
Immediately.
If there is a way for something to be unsafe, kids will use it. You can tell them what not to do, and they're still going to do it. So I think it would have been very, very obvious. That was obviously never done.
Yeah.
I don't really know how that one got passed or I was allowed to get past. Anybody could have seen that as a very obvious issue. So I think that is the case there. Well, get people involved sooner by getting the retailers involved.
Well, and by the time they saw that, they already had millions of them they had to get rid of. And I do think part of the problem, because a lot of times you're right, it is a specific brand, a specific retailer, but in this case, it was everyone. It was Walmart, Target, Sears, Lowe's, Kmart, Toys R Us, Sam's Club, Home Depot, Big Lots, Costco, BJ's, Amazon.com, Wayfair.com, Best Way USA, Intex, Funsicle.
But if CPSC goes to even the top 5
Yeah.
and says, hey, man, do you realize what's going on with this product?
That's true.
We would advise against you selling it.
Yeah.
And if they somehow can come together and say, you know what, good call.
Yeah.
Those other guys aren't going to do it either, because they're going to say, wow, why don't you have this product?
Yeah.
And then somebody at the Walmart help desk is going to say, well, because kids have died using it.
Yeah.
And I think that would hopefully
have
a conversation that would stem the tide of some of these things becoming so prominent.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we jump into, in case you missed it, the story is maybe not as popular on our website, but still stand to make a big impact on the industry going forward. We have another word from our sponsor. This week's episode is brought to you by Red Zone. Watching employees walk away shortly after spending ample resources training them is incredibly frustrating, and while harder to spot, unengaged or unproductive employees also negatively impact the return on labor investment. So this new webinar from Red Zone features experts who are going to talk about the roots of high turnover in manufacturing, how successful leaders support growth for employees, methods for improving operational visibility. So, if you like all those things and you want to learn more about those things, watch this webinar now. How Coil Specialist Tackled Employee Reliability by, quote, leading well. Download it right now. Check it out. Let us know what you think. All right. In case you missed it, stories maybe not as popular on the website, but could make a big impact on the industry going forward. Anna, what do you have for us this week?
So I selected a story about the Southwest Research Institute, an organization I have never heard of.
Oh, yeah.
Completing an 8-year project about energy efficiency in vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was pretty interesting. I hadn't seen anything like this before. So I picked the story because we've seen an uptick in the gas electric hybrid space for people who want better fuel efficiency but don't feel like they're fully ready for an electric. We also know about the benefits of autonomous vehicles, but lots of people still fear that technology. So this tech kind of meets both of those dynamics in the middle. So the Southwest Research Institute revealed the results of an 8-year-long Connected and Automated, or CAV, vehicle technology project. They developed an automated vehicle that combines CAV technology and level 4 automation to demonstrate what they say was up to 30% energy savings compared to traditional hybrid vehicles without modifications to the powertrain hardware.
Oh.
Right, I know.
Yeah.
I was like, go on. I don't. So the project was called Nextcar. They used an automated driving platform that combines widely adopted sensing, things like LiDAR, localization. The vehicle was also equipped with an algorithm suite that includes cooperative control capabilities and smart lane merging and changing functionality. So it also used what is like a drive-by-wire technology is what they call it, and they invented it there, this organization. And it automates operations of the vehicle's accelerator, its brake pedals, as well as its power steering. This is all embedded in a commercially available plug-in hybrid. So they just put this in an already built vehicle. And gained 30% energy efficiency improvement. And basically, just by standardizing, I think like building out our terrible driving, right?
Yeah.
So the project team is looking for collaborators and industry members for a potential joint industry program or a consortium to expand on the work that they've completed during Nextcar. They hope to commercialize this tech. And I just thought it was such a cool concept. I mean, imagine that you wanted to add this embedded component when you bought a new vehicle, or maybe even have it put in as an aftermarket product.
Yeah.
Because you could get this energy efficiency boost, and it kind of keeps you from having to do all in on autonomous driving or all in on an EV or something. You can kind of use the best parts of all of those things.
Yeah.
Which I think right now society is maybe a little bit more comfortable with.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know what you guys thought on that story, but I thought it was incredible.
I think the technology is incredible, and I would say I enjoy looking at what DARPA's doing, number one, and then number two, anything coming out of SwRI, because it's really
this organization that I know so well.
Well, no, it's you do know, because we have at least covered. I know we've covered at least one or two of their stories before. This was the company that was working on storage for batteries, so that way, when there were these runaway or thermal runaway events, they weren't torching the entire facility.
Oh, that was these guys, huh?
These guys, yes.
Oh,
that was these guys.
Great.
No, but I mean, if you go, just look at what they've done in July, just in terms of megawatt scale, heat exchanger testing, working on hydrogen vehicles, working on hydrogen peroxide on Europa. Just some crazy things.
Yeah.
And they're truly inspiring projects. This one in particular, I mean, if you can demonstrate energy savings in a vehicle by 30%, I mean, that's real world, game changer.
Big time.
Jeff, what were your thoughts on this story? And were you familiar with SwRI?
I have heard of SwRI. I think this is interesting. where I could see this coming into play is like for rebuilders, people who are maybe those who are looking at just capturing the aesthetics and looks of some older vehicles. Feel they can kind of take this and just plug and play.
Yeah.
Those who aren't necessarily looking to, hear or feel the muscle car, but just like the way it looked.
Yeah.
They can plug in this type of, infrastructure, whatever you want to call it, the frame, and be ready to go. So that was pretty cool. Yeah. The fact that it was that extensive was pretty amazing.
Yeah. All right. In case you missed it this week, Lucid launches joint effort to strengthen critical mineral supply chain for U.S. automakers. Electric vehicle maker Lucid Group this week announced the Minerals for National Automotive Competitiveness Corporation, or MINAC, I guess, a new partnership with critical mineral producers Alaska Energy Metals, Graphite One, Electric Metals, and Recyclico. The partnership aims to accelerate the development of domestic critical mineral resources and the procurement of these minerals for use in automotive manufacturing by U.S.-based automakers and other T1 suppliers. This is what they want to do: advance domestic mineral production through the completion of offtake agreements for American critical minerals for use in American automobiles. An offtake agreement is a long-term contract where you basically buy a bunch of what they're selling even before they make it. So, just kind of like funding it. They also want to identify and resolve barriers while accelerating commercialization and customer adoption, expand coordination between the mining and automotive sectors, support the qualification and procurement of domestically produced materials by U.S.-based automakers and Tier 1 suppliers. I picked this story because Lucid Motor, I feel like, is one of those EV companies where we're always just like, they're still around. They're doing all right. Where it's just, it seems like sometimes their survival might be tenuous at best. But I think when you look at stuff like this and they're diversifying into a noted gap in the marketplace, something that the U.S. auto market could really use to survive and navigate this new, let's just say, supply chain environment. I don't know. I think that agreements like this really make a lot of sense. Jeff, have you had a chance to check out this story, and what'd you think?
It does make a ton of sense. We've seen Tesla and GM, I think, basically buy mines. Okay. So if you're not able to do that, then these types of things make a ton of sense. And you would hope at some point, maybe some of the other bigger automakers also go more this route than sort of looking to take over and control the supply chain, just because you would feel this might be more economically feasible or better for the consumer in terms of pass along costs. So it's very interesting to see them take a very proactive approach, getting out in front of some of the larger automakers that also want to get into electric vehicles. To develop this type of relationship with this big of a network of miners. Yeah, pretty cool for Lucid.
No, I thought so too. And Anna, when it comes to Lucid Motor, again, we've talked about them whenever we've talked about, especially those fringe EV makers. This is definitely a type of partnership that could maybe help them stand out in a market that is difficult to survive.
Yeah, and they are surviving. They are sort of inching along. They have had like 6 or 5 consecutive record-breaking quarters, which again, those are like small numbers, but for Lucid to continue to make progress, I think is a good thing. And certainly to Jeff's point, you're seeing automakers try to integrate some of these supply requirements into their businesses a little bit more. Partnerships with battery companies or even investing in battery companies and with the mines as well. We know that these critical minerals are going to be crucial to being able to put these vehicles out on time and being able to forecast and all that stuff. So to get ahead of it, to get a handle on it, not just become a customer among many is, I think, a smart move.
Jeff, what is your in case you missed it this week?
So continuing with my quest to not be the curmudgeon, I tried to find something very positive.
Okay.
And I think what this guy, Patrick Schlott, is doing out in Turnbridge, Vermont is pretty cool. Basically, he is an electrical engineer, and he was going to a lot of these flea markets and other places and picking up these old payphones, which I know if I asked my kids about a payphone, they would have no clue what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So he's taking these old payphones and basically just I'm underselling what he's doing here, but essentially putting them in a place where they can attach to a landline, and then offering essentially free phone calls for in isolated areas in this geography where cell phone reception doesn't work. So he's put them in general stores, he's put them near high schools, things like that. The kids can use them after school to like call home, say, hey, I need a ride. All these different things. People passing through some of these smaller towns in New England are able to take advantage of the fact that he set up these old payphones that nobody was using. He buys them for somewhere between $100 and $500 and have a new life. I just thought it was really cool for a number of reasons. Number one, we're not seeing a bunch of more stuff going into a landfill, even if it is a handful of payphones, okay?
Yeah.
It's being reused. And he saw an opportunity to actually not only just put it out there for the sake of, dressing it up and giving it a new life, but a real world application. Yeah. It's being used and the costs are minimal because again, landline use nowadays, everybody, it's there. If it's there, you might as well use it. So, the cost for those actually housing the phones, less than $50 a month.
It's, he's not doing it because of the nostalgia. He's not doing it as an art installation. It's, he's serving his community.
Yeah.
And I actually really enjoyed this story. I was glad you picked it. The surprising thing for me was that nobody pounced on this guy. Everybody was like bringing back the old Yankee way. See a problem, fix a problem. Patrick is a true patriot. And kudos to Patrick Schlott. And I was like, whoa, way too much support.
Who are these people?
Yeah, it was a very uplifting story and then a very uplifting reaction from the entire engineering and manufacturing community. And I just thought that was great. Where, there can still be the feel good stories where at the end, everyone's not like, yeah, but well, I don't know. I guess, Anna, would you like to be the wet blanket here, or what did you think of this story?
No, it was almost moving, the part of the story where they talk about if a user dials 0, the phone rings to his personal cell phone. Yeah. And he will help people figure out what they need. So you're right. He is just serving his community, and it's just it was very moving story.
No, it's what was his quote was it's cool to see something retro that is this. Oh no, this is actually, is that Schlott where he says it's cool to see something retro that has that old school appeal but also works.
Yeah.
It's I guess, man. So what age do you think people don't know what a dial tone sounds like anymore? Us? No,
I don't know.
Maybe sooner. I'd be curious if anyone knows. There's got to be
it's burned in my brain. I can hear it right now. But
oh yeah, I feel like that'll be trivia at some point where people will be like, "What's this noise?"
Yeah,
and everyone around us will just be like, "Well, I don't know. What a crazy, is that from Star Trek?" All right. Before we get out of here, let's get into our final thoughts. Anna, what's your final thought this week?
So my husband and I are celebrating our 12th wedding anniversary this Sunday.
Whoa, congratulations.
Thanks. Happy anniversary, Chris. So we decided to celebrate by the grandparents are going to watch the kids for a couple hours in the morning, and we're going to go to brunch.
Woo.
And I know that sounds silly, maybe, especially to you, Jeff. But brunch is something that little kids do not understand. They just don't get it.
Oh, yeah.
It's because they wake up at 7:00 on Saturday or Sunday and they eat breakfast immediately. And then if we take them there, they're just like, what are we doing?
I already ate. And I'm not hungry again.
It's not breakfast. It's not lunch. I'm still going to expect lunch.
Yeah.
So we just never do it. And it's one of my favorite things. So we decided that's how we're going to spend our day.
No,
I love brunch.
Well, that's what I mean, though. You get to go to brunch. So you
see, here's the problem. It's so popular that it's hard.
You have to get there early.
To go to brunch. It's really difficult.
Yeah. It could be part of the Wisconsin lifestyle where part of the reason I think brunch is so popular in Wisconsin is because it's also socially acceptable to start drinking around 9:30, 10. Maybe more so in Wisconsin than other states. I don't know. Maybe it's just the eggs and the hollandaise. Who knows? But I also think it's those places with the art. Are you going to go to one of those places with the bottomless mimosas?
Oh, I wasn't planning on getting plowed at brunch, but maybe we'll see what happens.
No, very good. I don't have a final thought this week. Just hey, be good to yourself and be good to your family and be good to those that you don't know because you don't know what other people are going through. Jeff, what's your final thought this week?
Final thought, before we came in here, we learned about the passing of Terry Bollea, a.k.a. Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, after last week, we talked about him, and
Yep.
I was actually kind of worried that you were going to be pretty bummed out.
A little bit.
Yeah.
To be honest, a
Yeah.
little bit. Because when you think about the impact, and we kind of joke about pro wrestling and all that, but I guarantee, and I haven't run the numbers, David's our numbers guy, but if you ran the numbers, in Terry Bollea, Hulk Hogan's life, I guarantee you more people paid to see him wrestle than to watch Michael Jordan play basketball, to whoever your baseball goat is, Hank Aaron, whoever, Mickey Mantle.
Yeah.
Same thing with football. More people have definitely seen or paid to see Hulk Hogan wrestle than Tom Brady play football.
Oh, yeah.
And I think when you put that in perspective and how much just it's a silly thing, right? But it's so much happiness and joy when people go to these wrestling events. You can just see the crowd go crazy. You can see how much enjoyment there is, how much money he made other people as well. All those guys that he wrestled all through his life, they were there also making money because of Hulk Hogan. So, the man had his faults, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Trying to get into that. But yeah, it was sad to hear him go. And I think there has to be just maybe a little bit next level appreciation of what he did, even if it's just as a pro wrestler.
No, there is no other icon when it comes to sports entertainment that had a bigger impact. I don't think. There isn't one. And it was. Talk about Ozzy recently passed away, but this was one where as soon as news hit, my phone blew up with everyone from my life from age 5 to age 18. Everyone reached out and just, did you see this? And it just kind of goes to show, we were talking about how he's uncancelable or whatever, but he did have a trenormous.
It's a wrestling word.
Yeah.
Trenormous cultural impact. The other thing I wanted to say was that I did get a chance to hang out with loyal listener Pete this last weekend, and he says we're still doing a good job. So,
awesome.
Great
thanks.
work, guys.
Nice.
And thanks for sticking
Thanks,
around,
Pete.
Pete. We appreciate it. All right. Well, before we get out of here, I guess we got to toast a real American beer, right?
We should definitely get that. If you get a chance, just watch WrestleMania 3 this weekend. Check it out. Watch him slam Andre. Pretty awesome.
If you want to come over, we can watch it on VHS. I got it.
Get a real flashback.
Yeah. All right. Before we get out of here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us at Anna, Jeff, or David at IAN.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can also subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first. And subscribe to us on YouTube at IN Magazine so you can get a notification shortly after we're done recording. All right, for Jeff Reinke and Anna Wells, I'm David Manti. This is the Today in Manufacturing podcast. We will see you next week.